The year is 1935, and a bold vision for air travel is taking shape at American Airlines. The company desires a revolutionary aircraft, one that transcends the limitations of conventional seating and offers passengers the luxury of sleeping in full-size beds during transcontinental flights from New York to Los Angeles. This was not merely about comfort. It was about transforming the flying experience, echoing the elegance of a Pullman train car, but elevated to an altitude of 10,000 feet. The ambition was clear: to provide pull-down berths, creating a truly restful journey that was unprecedented in aviation. To bring this daring concept to fruition, American Airlines approached Donald Douglas, the visionary California-based aircraft manufacturer. Douglas, already known for his innovative work with all-metal aircraft designs, was presented with a significant order: 20 such sleeper planes. Douglas, ever the entrepreneur, readily accepted the challenge, though his engineering team was undoubtedly daunted by the prospect. Crafting a commercial airliner that could simultaneously embody opulent luxury and economic viability was akin to navigating a delicate task amidst a raging tempest, demanding meticulous precision and unwavering resilience. Stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Please write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. The dedicated team at Douglas Aircraft Company embarked on this formidable project with fervor. Their tireless efforts culminated in a historic moment on December 17, 1935, precisely 32 years to the day after the pioneering flight of the Wright brothers. From Cloverfield in Santa Monica, the Douglas Sleeper Transport, or DST, majestically lifted into the sky. It was an aesthetically pleasing marvel of engineering. Its exterior gleamed with an all-metal skin. It was propelled by powerful twin engines, and it featured a robust tail wheel. Inside, it offered the flexibility of accommodating either 14 comfortable sleeping berths or, in its standard DC-3 configuration, 21 day seats. This adaptability made it exceptionally attractive to airlines, as it marked a pivotal shift in the economics of air travel. For the first time, an aircraft could generate substantial revenues solely from passenger fares, eliminating the prior reliance on lucrative mail contracts. The DC-3 swiftly became the foundational pillar of American civil aviation, establishing its dominance almost instantaneously. Yet, an unforeseen characteristic of this passenger-centric aircraft, designed primarily for passenger comfort and profitability, was its inherent structural fortitude. Its very construction possessed a resilience capable of enduring considerable duress. The fuselage, engineered as a semi-monocoque structure, ingeniously utilized its metal skin to bear significant stress loads, rather than depending exclusively on an internal framework. This design principle conferred both lightness and extraordinary strength, akin to a robust aluminum beverage can that resists deformation even under pressure. Furthermore, the wings of the DC-3 were notably thick, incorporating a high-lift airfoil design. This innovative aerodynamic profile enabled the aircraft to execute takeoffs and landings on relatively short runways, a critical capability given the prevalence of rudimentary grass strips and uneven fields that served as airports during the 1930s. The engineers at Douglas also incorporated a generously proportioned center section between the wing spars. This thoughtful design created an expansive cargo hold, capable of accommodating a diverse array of items, from passenger luggage and mail sacks to, as future events would reveal, more substantial loads such as jeeps, howitzers, and even wounded soldiers on stretchers. The landing gear was engineered for exceptional durability, designed to absorb the impact of harsh landings on unpaved surfaces, while the tailwheel configuration provided remarkable stability on the ground, even when confronted with challenging crosswinds. By 1939, the ubiquity of the DC-3 was undeniable, as it accounted for an astonishing 90% of global airline traffic. Over 400 units were actively in service, forging vital aerial connections across the vast expanses of America, Europe, and Asia. Pan American Airways leveraged these reliable aircraft to establish new routes throughout Latin America, while KLM operated them on extensive journeys to the distant Dutch East Indies. The DC-3 thus emerged as the world's inaugural truly global airliner, democratizing air travel and making it accessible not merely to the affluent elite, but also to a burgeoning middle class. However, the global landscape dramatically shifted with the outbreak of World War II. Germany's invasion of Poland in September 1939 brought a stark realization: modern warfare demanded more than just formidable fighters and bombers. The rapid deployment of troops, essential supplies, and critical equipment necessitated efficient transport planes. The U.S. Army Air Corps, having closely observed the DC-3 for several years, recognized its latent potential. This civilian aircraft demonstrated an impressive capacity to haul 3 tons of cargo, maintain a cruising speed of 160 miles per hour, and operate effectively from rugged, unprepared fields. While not originally conceived for military applications, it possessed all the intrinsic qualities vital for a military transport: unwavering reliability, operational simplicity, and inherent robustness. Consequently, military officials initiated urgent communications with the Douglas plant in Santa Monica. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, irrevocably altered the course of events. The United States found itself embroiled in a two-ocean war, critically undersupplied with the necessary equipment. The Army Air Forces faced an immediate and pressing need for transport aircraft, not in a distant 6 months, nor after a protracted development program, but instantaneously. The proven efficacy of the DC-3 made the decision straightforward: militarize the existing design. On paper, this conversion appeared to be a relatively simple undertaking. In reality, Douglas engineers were given a mere 72 hours to transform a luxurious civilian airliner into a robust cargo hauler capable of withstanding the rigors of combat. The opulent sleeper berths were summarily removed. The soundproofing panels, plush seating, and overhead bins for passenger luggage were all stripped away. In their stead, Douglas engineers installed reinforced aluminum floors, specifically rated to endure the concentrated loads of military cargo, such as ammunition crates, fuel drums, or even a fully assembled motorcycle. A substantial cargo door was integrated into the port side of the fuselage, measuring 6 feet in height, and wide enough to facilitate the loading of a disassembled Jeep or a 75mm pack howitzer in its component pieces. This modification was far from superficial. It involved significant structural alteration, necessitating the cutting into the fuselage and reinforcing the edges with heavy frames to prevent stress-induced cracking. The military also mandated seating for paratroopers, 28 individuals in full combat gear, positioned facing each other along the cabin walls on fold-down benches constructed from tubular aluminum and canvas webbing. These seats were designed for functionality, not comfort, prioritizing lightness, strength, and ease of installation. Above these paratrooper seats, Douglas incorporated a robust steel cable anchor line, extending the entire length of the cabin ceiling. Paratroopers would attach their static lines to this cable, ensuring that their parachutes would automatically deploy upon exiting the aircraft. This ingenious yet simple mechanism required precise engineering, as the cable had to withstand the simultaneous pull of 28 men during a drop without detaching from the airframe. The cabin floor was also equipped with tie-down rings at regular intervals, heavy steel loops securely bolted through the skin into the underlying structure, allowing cargo to be firmly lashed down with chains or ropes, preventing any shifting during turbulence or aggressive maneuvers. Pilots also received targeted upgrades, including more resilient instruments, an enhanced compass, and astrodome hatches for celestial navigation during extensive overwater flights. A 24-volt electrical system replaced the civilian 12-volt setup, providing power for advanced radios and signal lights essential for communication with ground troops. This comprehensively redesigned aircraft received a new designation, the C-47 Skytrain. The C denoted its cargo role, and 47 was simply its sequential number. Within the Air Force's inventory, Douglas made no alterations to the engines, wings, or landing gear, as there was neither the time nor the necessity. The inherent durability of the civilian DC-3's structure, already overbuilt by airline standards, rendered it perfectly suited for the demands of military service. By January 1942, the initial C-47s began rolling off the production line at the Long Beach plant. To meet the escalating demand, Douglas also activated a second factory in Oklahoma City. The Army's initial order for 965 planes rapidly swelled to 5,000 and continued to increase. Workers toiled tirelessly in 24-hour shifts, transforming the factory floor into a scene of organized pandemonium. Wings were riveted, engines were meticulously lowered onto mounts, and fuselages progressed down the assembly line, resembling a vast, intricate procession of aluminum insects. Each aircraft required approximately 20,000 man-hours to complete, a figure that, while substantial, paled in comparison to the triple amount required for Boeing's B-17 bomber. The C-47 distinguished itself as an aircraft that was quick to build, economical to operate, and remarkably resilient. At the heart of the C-47's enduring success were its twin Pratt and Whitney R-1830 twin Wasp engines. Understanding the significance of these specific power plants is crucial to comprehending the aircraft's unparalleled dominance. Each engine comprised a 14-cylinder air-cooled radial configuration, with the cylinders arranged circularly around the crankshaft, much like the petals of a flower. This design offered substantial advantages. Air-cooled engines eliminated the need for radiators, coolant lines, or pumps, thereby reducing potential points of failure and minimizing overall weight. In active combat zones, where a single bullet piercing a coolant line could incapacitate a liquid-cooled engine, the twin Wasp demonstrated an extraordinary ability to continue functioning. Each engine generated 1,200 horsepower at takeoff, a power output that, while not groundbreaking compared to fighter aircraft, was precisely calibrated for a transport plane. Excessive power would result in fuel inefficiency, while insufficient power would hinder its ability to lift a full load from a short jungle airstrip. The twin Wasp achieved an optimal balance. However, it was in the meticulous design of the engine mounts that Douglas engineers truly showcased their expertise. They engineered mounts specifically to absorb the considerable vibrations characteristic of radial engines, which could shake intensely. These mounts incorporated rubber isolators, allowing the engine to subtly oscillate without transmitting every tremor into the airframe. This critical feature prevented rivets from loosening and mitigated metal fatigue cracks that would otherwise ground the aircraft after a few hundred hours of operation. Furthermore, they integrated full feathering propellers, a sophisticated feature borrowed from bomber designs. Should one engine fail, the pilot could rotate the blades of the defunct propeller to an edge-on position relative to the wind, effectively eliminating drag. This capability meant that the C-47 could continue flying on a single engine, albeit not optimally or swiftly, but it could reliably limp home instead of plunging from the sky. Pilots greatly appreciated this feature, as engine failures were a common occurrence over hostile territory, and single-engine flights saved countless crews. The fuel system itself was a testament to practical engineering ingenuity. The C-47 carried 804 gallons of aviation gasoline, distributed among 4 tanks, 2 in the wings and 2 in the center section. Fuel flowed from the wing tanks to the engines via gravity feed. This crucial design element ensured that even if the electric fuel pumps malfunctioned, the engines would continue to operate as long as fuel remained in the tanks. For extended-range missions, ground crews could install auxiliary fuel tanks within the cargo cabin, thereby expanding the aircraft's operational range from 1,600 miles to over 3,000 miles. The C-47 aircraft possesses the remarkable capability to significantly augment its operational reach by accommodating supplementary fuel tanks within its spacious cargo hold. This ingenious modification effectively stretches its flight range from a standard 1,600 miles to an impressive span exceeding 3,000 miles. Such an enhancement transforms the C-47 into an invaluable transoceanic conveyance, perfectly suited for extensive journeys. It readily undertakes strategic island-hopping campaigns across the vast Pacific Ocean or navigates the demanding South Atlantic route, efficiently connecting distant points such as Brazil and West Africa. While operating at its cruising velocity, the aircraft consumes approximately 100 gallons of fuel hourly. This consumption rate might initially appear substantial, yet its perceived thirstiness is quickly contextualized when one considers its impressive capacity to transport a considerable payload of 3 tons of cargo simultaneously. Consequently, its fuel efficiency, measured per ton-mile, surpasses nearly every conventional truck convoy, offering an undeniable advantage in logistics. Furthermore, the speed at which it accomplishes these feats is immeasurably superior, providing a critical logistical edge during conflict. We sincerely hope you are enjoying this detailed exposition of the C-47's remarkable capabilities. We encourage you to stay with us and watch the conclusion of this video to fully appreciate its incredible story. Your like and subscription would be greatly appreciated as we continue to bring you compelling historical narratives. Please take a moment to share in the comments where you are from and your thoughts on the pivotal role of this aircraft in historical events. The unsung hero of this robust aircraft's architectural brilliance resides undoubtedly in its reinforced cargo floor, a testament to thoughtful engineering. Engineers at Douglas Aircraft meticulously improved upon the foundational design of the original DC-3 floor. They integrated substantial longitudinal beams, extending from the front to the rear of the compartment, and augmented these with sturdy crossmembers strategically placed at regular intervals. This structural enhancement endowed the floor with the remarkable ability to bear a concentrated load of 6,000 pounds within a confined space. One might envision the demanding scenario of stacking heavy ammunition crates in a single corner without any risk of compromising the aircraft's integrity. Adding to its practical design, the cargo floor also features a subtle crown, being slightly elevated in its central section and sloping gently towards the edges. This intelligent contouring facilitates the efficient drainage of any accumulated water or mud directly towards the exit, preventing undesirable pooling within the cabin. It was precisely these seemingly minor yet profoundly impactful design nuances that distinguished a truly functional and dependable aircraft from one that would inevitably devolve into a persistent maintenance burden. Furthermore, the floor surface is meticulously covered with durable, non-slip plywood panels. These panels are engineered for straightforward replacement, allowing ground crews to effect repairs in approximately an hour should they sustain damage during operations. There was no ostentation, no unnecessary complexity, merely intelligent design principles brought to flawless execution. When one consolidates all these attributes, the robust engines, the efficient fuel system, the resilient cargo floor, and the overall structural integrity, the result is an aircraft engineered to be remarkably foolproof in operation. In the demanding crucible of wartime, such inherent reliability and simplicity often prove to be far more valuable than sheer, unadulterated performance metrics. The dawn of June 6, 1944, witnessed the global community collectively holding its breath as Operation Overlord, the monumental Allied invasion, commenced its unfolding across the historic Normandy coast. Yet, several hours prior to the initial landing craft making contact with the beaches, the true prelude to this grand offensive transpired within the nocturnal expanse above France. Precisely at 12:15 a.m., an impressive armada of 822 C-47 transport aircraft ascended from various airfields scattered throughout southern England, their fuselages brimming with American paratroopers drawn from the elite 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions. Each individual aircraft bore between 18 and 20 fully equipped troopers, each man encumbered by a staggering 80 pounds of essential gear, weaponry, ammunition, and auxiliary parachutes. The internal environment of the cabins was notoriously confined, shrouded in darkness, and permeated by an oppressive melange of human perspiration, engine oil, and the acrid scent of vomit, a consequence of approximately half the occupants succumbing to air sickness induced by persistent atmospheric turbulence. The skilled pilots meticulously maintained tight aerial configurations, known as serials, comprising 9-plane V-shaped echelons trailing one another in sequence. Their navigation relied heavily on dead reckoning, supplemented by intermittent radio beacons, as the pervasive threat of German radar rendered electronic navigation attempts perilously suicidal. These vital transport planes traversed the English Channel at an altitude of 1,500 feet, sufficiently low for the resonant roar of their engines to reverberate distinctively off the water's surface. The strategic blueprint, while seemingly elegant in its conceptualization, aimed to deploy 13,000 paratroopers deep inland, specifically behind Utah Beach, with the critical objectives of seizing control of bridges, neutralizing enemy artillery emplacements, and impeding the advance of German reinforcements. The specialized pathfinders initiated the airborne assault, leaping at precisely 12:15 a.m. to establish crucial radar beacons and illumination markers for the designated drop zones. Subsequently, the principal waves of aircraft were to follow, with each serial meticulously timed to reach its objective at strictly defined intervals. However, the inherent unpredictability of warfare ensures that plans rarely unfold precisely as conceived. As the fleet of C-47s drew nearer to the French coastline, a barrage of German anti-aircraft fire erupted. Luminous tracer rounds sliced through the pervasive darkness, while 80mm flak shells detonated in vivid orange fireballs across the night sky. Abruptly, pilots were compelled to execute frantic evasive maneuvers, plunging, ascending, and sharply turning to elude the relentless barrage. The once disciplined formations fractured into disarray. A number of pilots deliberately reduced their airspeed to 90 miles per hour, apprehensive that excessive velocity might imperil the paratroopers during their jump due to propeller blast. Conversely, others aggressively advanced their throttles to 150 miles per hour, desperately seeking to outrun the intense anti-aircraft fire. The immediate consequence was utter pandemonium. Paratroopers, disoriented by the chaotic conditions, plunged into the abyssal darkness, utterly devoid of any precise knowledge regarding their landing locations. Tragically, some descended into waterlogged fields, succumbing to drowning under the immense burden of their equipment. Other unfortunate individuals found themselves entangled in trees, stranded on rooftops, or, most perilously, deposited directly amidst entrenched German positions. Despite the relentless onslaught, a remarkable characteristic emerged. The C-47s, against all odds, continued their flight. Aircraft sustained direct impacts. Shrapnel violently perforated their aluminum skins, hydraulic lines ruptured, and engines ignited in flames. Yet, the overwhelming majority of these battered machines managed to hobble back to the safety of England. Crews recounted harrowing tales of wings riddled with bullet holes, tail sections severely mangled, and vital control cables hanging precariously by mere threads. A particularly striking account detailed one C-47 returning to base bearing 108 distinct holes in its fuselage, with both engines barely functioning. Astonishingly, this same aircraft, after landing, underwent extensive overnight repairs and was airborne once more the following day, a testament to its resilience. Ironically, the widespread dispersion of paratroopers, initially perceived as a critical failure, ultimately proved advantageous for the Allied forces. German commanders, inundated with disparate reports of paratroopers appearing ubiquitously, behind every hedgerow, within every village, were thrown into a state of disarray, erroneously concluding that the scale of the invasion far exceeded its actual size. Meanwhile, small contingents of American soldiers, utilizing distinctive toy crickets for clandestine identification in the pre-dawn gloom, began to converge and systematically engage their assigned objectives. By the arrival of dawn, notwithstanding the extensive scattering of their initial drops, the tenacious paratroopers had successfully secured pivotal bridges and crucial roadways. As daylight broke on June 6, the C-47s made their return, now engaged in a different, but equally vital task, towing Waco gliders. These gliders were laden with essential equipment such as jeeps, anti-tank guns, and additional troops. Despite their inherent flimsiness, being essentially plywood boxes, and the perilous nature of landing them in the constricted French fields, a maneuver that tragically proved fatal for many, the stalwart C-47 tugs valiantly ensured their delivery. More than 500 gliders successfully touched down on D-Day, effectively transporting much-needed artillery and vehicles that the initial waves of paratroopers were incapable of carrying. Throughout that arduous day, the dedicated C-47 crews executed a relentless series of missions, encompassing troop deployments, glider towing operations, and the critical evacuation of wounded personnel on their return journeys. Pilots were pushed to the brink of exhaustion, while navigators were rendered hoarse from ceaselessly relaying coordinates. Every aircraft cabin was saturated with the acrid scent of cordite and the grim tang of blood. Nevertheless, the overarching mission achieved its objectives. The initial drop zones established in Normandy transformed into vital footholds, which, in turn, facilitated the crucial breakout that ultimately led to the liberation of France. General Dwight D. Eisenhower himself would later assert unequivocally that victory in the war would have been unattainable without the C-47, not attributing success to the prowess of fighter aircraft or the destructive capability of bombers, but to the humble, unarmed transport plane that tirelessly performed the most arduous and essential tasks. The C-47's tireless service did not conclude with the campaigns in Normandy. A mere 10 months subsequently, on March 24, 1945, the aircraft once again assumed a central role in Operation Varsity, the audacious airborne assault designed to cross the formidable Rhine River and penetrate deep into Germany's industrial core. On this occasion, Military strategists had judiciously assimilated the lessons gleaned from the chaotic experiences of D-Day. There would be no nocturnal drops, nor would there be scattered formations. Instead, an imposing fleet of over 900 C-47s and their British counterparts ascended into the sky in broad daylight at 10 a.m., maintaining formations with parade ground precision. Within an astonishing span of less than 2 hours, they successfully deployed 17,000 British and American paratroopers, an unparalleled feat that remains the most concentrated airborne assault ever recorded in history. The German anti-aircraft fire, or flak, proved exceptionally lethal during Operation Varsity, as the clear daylight conditions afforded enemy gunners unobstructed targets. A tragic toll saw 53 C-47 shot down directly over the designated drop zones, spiraling in fiery descent into the German countryside. An additional 400 aircraft limped back to their bases, so severely compromised that they were either declared irreparable or necessitated weeks of intensive repairs. Yet, despite these heavy losses, the mission achieved its objectives. The paratroopers landed cohesively, in organized units, and immediately prepared for engagement. They swiftly secured crucial bridgeheads, thereby enabling ground forces to stream across the Rhine. The C-47 unequivocally demonstrated its extraordinary capacity to endure levels of punishment that would utterly annihilate lesser aircraft designs, yet still accomplish its vital mission of payload delivery. Concurrently, some 6,000 miles distant, across the vast expanse of the Pacific Theater, C-47s were engaged in a fundamentally distinct form of conflict. Improvised jungle airstrips in challenging locales such as New Guinea, the Philippines, and Burma evolved into indispensable lifelines for troops isolated from conventional naval supply routes. These were far from standard airfields. Rather, they were rudimentary clearings laboriously carved out of dense rainforests, often surfaced with pierced steel planking or compacted crushed coral, typically measuring a mere 2,000 feet in length and frequently flanked by towering trees at both extremities. The C-47, however, remained unfazed by these primitive conditions. Its broad landing gear effectively distributed its weight across soft, uneven terrain, while its classic taildragger configuration ensured that the tailwheel functioned as an effective braking mechanism during the critical rollout phase after landing. Pilots routinely executed landings with one engine feathered, frequently evading persistent Japanese fighter aircraft during their approach. They would then swiftly offload cargo, embark wounded personnel, and rapidly depart before enemy artillery could accurately target their positions. In the arduous Burmese theater, C-47s provided crucial logistical support to the Chindits, specialized British long-range penetration units operating a formidable 200 miles behind entrenched Japanese lines. In this unforgiving environment, devoid of roads or navigable rivers, nothing but impenetrable jungle, the C-47 crews performed heroic feats. They navigated over the towering Himalayas along the southern periphery of the notorious route dubbed the Hump, traversing treacherous 16,000-foot mountain passes where powerful updrafts and downdrafts violently buffeted their aircraft, tossing them around like mere playthings. These indefatigable aircraft were responsible for transporting a diverse array of vital supplies, including ammunition, foodstuffs, critical medical provisions, and even live mules. Indeed, these pack animals were destined for the Chindits, serving as essential beasts of burden. The arduous task of coaxing a terrified mule into the C-47's cargo bay presented its own unique logistical nightmare, yet the dedicated crews consistently managed the feat. Furthermore, they undertook the solemn duty of evacuating the wounded, at times ingeniously arranging as many as 30 stretchers within the cabin by stacking them 3 high along the interior walls. In such instances, the aircraft's cabin transformed into a makeshift flying field hospital, with medics attending to casualties by the flickering beam of flashlights as the plane pitched and bucked through ferocious monsoon storms. Among the most celebrated missions in the Pacific Theater was the critical supply run to Bataan in early 1942, preceding the ultimate fall of the Philippines. C-47s, launching from distant Australia, valiantly endeavored to penetrate formidable Japanese air patrols, aiming to deliver desperately needed food and ammunition to the beleaguered American and Filipino forces trapped on the peninsula. Most of these daring flights tragically failed to reach their destination. Japanese Zero fighters either shot them down or compelled them to abort their missions and retreat. However, a courageous handful managed to slip through under the cover of darkness, flying precariously at wave-top height to evade enemy radar, and successfully dropped supplies that sustained the defenders' resistance for several additional weeks. It was a mission widely understood to be suicidal, yet the heroic crews volunteered without hesitation. Subsequently, following General MacArthur's successful campaign to retake the Philippines, the C-47s ascended to become the veritable backbone of the Allied island-hopping logistical strategy. They adeptly leapfrogged from one newly secured airstrip to the next, transporting an astonishing variety of provisions, ranging from essential freshwater supplies to propaganda leaflets. During the intense fighting on Okinawa, these resilient aircraft routinely landed amidst relentless artillery fire, their engines kept running, cargo doors already flung open. Ground crews, operating with astonishing speed, would hurl supplies out while the aircraft was still in motion. The average turnaround time for these critical deliveries was an incredible 4 minutes. This unparalleled level of operational efficiency was not solely attributable to the aircraft itself. Rather, it stemmed profoundly from the inherent simplicity of its design, which permitted mechanics to address issues with fundamental tools and enabled cargo handlers to execute their tasks with extraordinary swiftness. The C-47 did not necessitate specialized equipment or demand immaculate operating conditions. It simply performed its duties effectively, in every conceivable location, on every single occasion. The remarkable robustness of the C-47 transport aircraft meant it performed flawlessly across the most challenging environments. Its operational integrity remained steadfast regardless of location or circumstance. This unwavering dependability cemented its reputation as a truly ubiquitous and consistently effective machine. With the cessation of hostilities in August 1945, the global landscape was inundated by an overwhelming abundance of surplus C-47 aircraft. Vast numbers of these planes, reaching into the thousands, lay dormant on airfields stretching from the United Kingdom across to the Philippine archipelago, awaiting either dismantlement for salvage or disposal at significantly reduced prices. While the majority of military aviation assets typically recede into historical anonymity once conflicts conclude, the C-47, remarkably, embarked upon a subsequent operational phase that proved nearly as compelling and impactful as its initial wartime service. In June of 1948, the Soviet Union implemented a comprehensive blockade of West Berlin, effectively severing all overland and railway routes. This strategic maneuver was designed to exert immense pressure, ultimately aiming to induce the city's capitulation through starvation and compel the withdrawal of the Western Allied powers. Within the confines of the western sectors, 2 million Berliners found themselves isolated, possessing an estimated mere 36 days' worth of food reserves. The city's daily sustenance demanded an astonishing 4,500 tons of provisions, encompassing essentials such as coal for thermal energy and power generation, flour for staple bread production, vital medical supplies, and necessary clothing, an exhaustive list of necessities. The concept of sustaining an entire metropolitan area solely through aerial means appeared utterly insurmountable, an unprecedented logistical challenge. However, faced with an absolute absence of alternatives, the Allied forces had no recourse but to reactivate their readily available war surplus C-47s and commence the audacious airlift operation. Stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Please write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. The monumental undertaking, christened Operation Victuals by the Americans and Operation Plain Fare by their British counterparts, commenced on June 26, 1948. Initially, the endeavor was characterized by considerable disarray and a frantic, improvisational effort. C-47s were deployed, transporting any available cargo they could hastily procure, touching down at Tempelhof Airport, centrally located within Berlin. Each aircraft's payload was then meticulously unloaded by manual labor before swiftly departing for another sortie. These venerable aircraft possessed a carrying capacity of approximately 2.5 tons per individual journey, necessitating almost 2,000 daily flights to adequately address the city's urgent requirements. This translated into the staggering demand for one aircraft to land every 90 seconds, continuously, 24 hours a day, under every conceivable meteorological condition. The logistical complexities involved in this operation were truly astounding. Ground personnel rapidly devised and refined a highly efficient system. The instant a C-47 made contact with the runway, it proceeded directly to a designated unloading area where teams of German laborers immediately converged upon it. These dedicated workers were allotted a mere 8 minutes to completely offload the diverse cargo, heavy sacks of coal, large bags of flour, and crates of powdered milk, before the aircraft was compelled to swiftly depart, thereby vacating the runway for the incessant stream of incoming planes. In instances of mechanical failure, any disabled aircraft was unceremoniously shunted from the active runway using a bulldozer, with repairs deferred until a later, less critical juncture. The relentless pace permitted no deviation or delay. The C-47s navigated through 3 distinct aerial corridors, extending from West Germany directly into Berlin. Each of these vital arteries measured 20 miles in width and was meticulously structured with multiple altitude layers. Aircraft were assigned specific flight levels at 5,000, 6,000, and 7,000 feet, maintaining precise separation through time intervals meticulously calculated to the very second. The air traffic control teams orchestrated a complex, 3-dimensional aerial ballet, a feat of coordination so intricate and demanding it would undoubtedly challenge the most adept modern logistics professionals. The onset of winter dramatically exacerbated the already formidable challenges. Berlin, by December 1948, was gripped by severe freezing temperatures, and the city's crucial power generation facilities were critically depleting their coal reserves. Consequently, the C-47s began to almost exclusively transport coal, a notoriously dirty, weighty, and abrasive material that rapidly eroded the aircraft's cargo floors and perpetually inundated the cabin interiors with fine black dust. Crews were forced to manually shovel coal out of the planes during the brief intervals between flights, as there was simply no adequate time for proper sweeping or cleaning. The relentless schedule pushed them to the brink of exhaustion, with pilots and ground staff undertaking 2 or 3 round trips daily, grabbing sleep in fragmented shifts, and subsisting on cold, unappetizing rations. Concurrently, the aircraft themselves were enduring an immense toll. The incessant operational tempo caused engines to degrade and wear out at a significantly accelerated rate compared to normal peacetime usage. Dedicated maintenance crews labored tirelessly through 24-hour shifts, diligently replacing cylinders, meticulously repairing hydraulic fluid leaks, and exchanging propellers that had become warped or damaged from the numerous demanding landings. By the advent of spring 1949, the Berlin airlift had evolved into an extraordinarily efficient and finely tuned logistical apparatus. Although the Allied forces augmented their fleet with the introduction of larger C-54 Skymasters, the ubiquitous C-47, nonetheless, the C-47 steadfastly retained its pivotal role as the primary workhorse, executing the preponderant share of the missions. A historic milestone was achieved on Easter Sunday, April 16, 1949, when the airlift successfully delivered an unprecedented 12,410 tons of supplies within a single 24-hour period, distributed across nearly 1,400 individual flights. Faced with such undeniable resolve, Joseph Stalin recognized the futility of his attempts to undermine the Allies' determination, consequently lifting the blockade on May 12, 1949. Despite the lifting of the blockade, the airlift persisted until September, serving the crucial purpose of augmenting Berlin's strategic reserves. Upon its ultimate conclusion, the C-47s had collectively undertaken in excess of 100,000 sorties, successfully delivering an astounding 2.3 million tons of essential provisions. Crucially, not a single Berliner succumbed to starvation. The C-47 thus unequivocally demonstrated its capacity to perform in peacetime what it had achieved during wartime, to uphold and sustain human life amid seemingly insurmountable adversities. The very aircraft that had once deployed paratroopers onto the battlefields of Normandy were now depositing vital coal into a besieged metropolis, executing these diverse tasks with an identical, unyielding dependability. The profound impact of the C-47 was by no means confined to the geographical boundaries of the United States. Rather, its influence propagated globally with the pervasive spread of an irresistible phenomenon. Nations across the world swiftly came to the realization that this particular aircraft was an indispensable asset for their own operational requirements. During the war, the British Commonwealth acquired more than 2,000 C-47s via the Lend-Lease program, developing a profound appreciation for their capabilities. They subsequently rechristened the aircraft the Dakota, a moniker derived from its military acronym, Douglas Aircraft Company Transport Aircraft, or DCOTA. This designation enduringly persisted, and even today, British aviators refer to it as the Dakota with a distinct sense of veneration. The Royal Air Force deployed these Dakotas across a vast array of theaters, including North Africa, Italy, and Burma, and later extensively in Malaya, where they were instrumental in combating communist insurgents within the dense jungle terrain. The aircraft's unparalleled capacity to airdrop essential provisions to isolated outposts deep within the rainforest proved critical, rendering effective counterinsurgency operations feasible. It is widely acknowledged that, without the reliable service of the Dakota, the British forces would likely have faced defeat in Malaya. Post-war, France received several hundred Dakotas, promptly deploying them to Indochina, where they provided critical logistical support to besieged garrisons engaged in conflict with the Viet Minh. The most renowned of these operations occurred during the Battle of Dien Bien Phu in 1954, when French Dakotas undertook perilous missions, desperately airlifting vital supplies and paratroopers into a valley completely encircled by hostile forces. Although the entrenched base ultimately succumbed, the Dakotas continued their flights until the absolute final opportunity, with their courageous crews fully cognizant of the high probability of either capture or fatality. A particularly fascinating and unconventional narrative emerges from the Soviet Union's engagement with this aircraft. As early as 1936, Predating the outbreak of global conflict, the Soviets secured a licensing agreement to domestically manufacture DC-3s. They meticulously reverse-engineered the original design, systematically converting all imperial measurements to the metric system, and subsequently commenced production of their own variant, designated the Lisinovly II. This aircraft was nearly indistinguishable from its American progenitor, with the notable exception of an added dorsal gun turret, a modification reflecting Soviet military doctrine, which presupposed that all transport aircraft would inevitably face interception by adversarial fighters. By the time Germany initiated its invasion in 1941, Soviet industrial facilities were actively mass-producing Li-2s, ultimately constructing over 6,000 units by the war's conclusion. The Li-2 mirrored the comprehensive utility of the C-47. It supplied partisan forces operating behind German lines, facilitated the evacuation of casualties from the brutal siege of Stalingrad, and even performed duties as a nocturnal bomber, delivering light ordnance upon German emplacements. Following the cessation of hostilities, the Soviets extensively exported Li-2s to virtually every communist state globally. China incorporated them into its fleet, North Korea utilized them during the Korean War, and numerous Eastern European nations operated them for several decades. A peculiar irony arose from a Soviet-manufactured imitation of an American capitalist airliner serving as the foundational element of communist military logistics. Yet this unexpected development precisely transpired. Many smaller nations embraced the C-47 due to its inherent affordability, operational simplicity, and widespread availability. In the aftermath of World War II, a surplus C-47 could be procured for a sum equivalent to that of a high-quality automobile. Furthermore, its operation did not necessitate a specialized cadre of aeronautical engineers. A skilled mechanic capable of repairing agricultural machinery could readily maintain a C-47. Consequently, nations such as Greece, Turkey, Israel, and South Africa established the foundational elements of their respective air forces centered around this highly adaptable aircraft type. During the 1948 War of Independence, Israel employed C-47s to successfully airlift vital provisions beyond Arab blockades, and even ingeniously modified several units into makeshift bombers by manually deploying explosives from the cargo door. While this method was rudimentary, it proved effective in combat. South Africa extensively utilized C-47s during the border war, facilitating the insertion of troops into Angolan and Mozambican territories. Even as late as 1982, the Argentine Air Force deployed these aircraft in the Falklands War, demonstrating their continued relevance in combat missions nearly 5 decades after the design's initial introduction. In a notable incident, an Argentine C-47 was tragically downed by a British Sea Harrier, marking what was likely the sole instance of a 1930s-era transport aircraft being destroyed by a modern jet fighter. By the close of the 20th century, specifically the 1990s, an impressive tally of over 60 sovereign nations had, at various junctures, operated C-47s or their Dakota counterparts, solidifying its status as one of the most universally adopted aircraft in aviation history. Remarkably, a contingent of these venerable machines continues to remain operational in the present day, predominantly under the aegis of smaller cargo carriers in regions like Africa and South America. These enduring aircraft diligently transport goods to remote locales where the presence of paved runways remains an infrequent luxury. Instances exist of C-47s, manufactured as early as 1943, having accumulated an astonishing 90,000 flight hours, a duration equivalent to more than a decade of continuous, uninterrupted flight. The fundamental airframe of this resilient aircraft simply demonstrates an unwavering refusal to cease its service. An examination of virtually any contemporary military transport aircraft, be it a C-130 Hercules, an A-400M Atlas, or even the colossal C-17 Globemaster, reveals the pervasive genetic legacy of the C-47 woven throughout its design. Consider the ubiquitous rear cargo ramp that articulates downwards for efficient loading. This feature represents a sophisticated evolution of the C-47's foundational side cargo door design ethos, which prioritized rapid loading and unloading without the need for specialized ground support equipment. The distinctive webbing seats arrayed along the fuselage walls, where military personnel are positioned facing one another, are a direct lineage from the tubular aluminum benches originally installed by Douglas in 1942. Furthermore, essential elements such as the robust tie-down rings integrated into the floor, the static line cables indispensable for paratrooper deployment, and the overarching design emphasis on sustained operations from austere, unimproved airfields, all these characteristics are inherited by every modern military transport. Precisely because the C-47 definitively demonstrated their efficacy and practical utility. The foundational tenets of the U.S. Air Force's comprehensive doctrine of tactical airlift, specifically, the revolutionary concept that ground forces could be effectively sustained deep within hostile territory solely through aerial resupply, were meticulously formulated during World War II, with the C-47 serving as the instrumental testbed for these innovative strategies. Prior to the advent of the C-47, the prevailing military conviction held that a large-scale conflict could not be waged successfully without firmly established and secure supply lines on the ground. The advent and proven capabilities of the C-47 rendered this long-held belief entirely obsolete. The profound engineering insights gleaned from the C-47 extended even further. The Douglas Aircraft Company unequivocally demonstrated that the creation of a decisive wartime asset did not necessarily hinge upon the deployment of avant-garde technology. Rather, the paramount requirements were unwavering reliability, inherent simplicity, and straightforward ease of manufacture. The C-47 incorporated readily available, off-the-shelf engines, employed conventional aluminum construction techniques, and utilized mechanical systems that were comprehensible even to individuals with a basic understanding of engineering, such as those in a high school shop class. There was an absence of exotic materials, experimental design configurations, or components demanding protracted lead times for fabrication. This pragmatic design philosophy exerted a profound and lasting influence on post-war military strategic thought. When Lockheed embarked upon the design of the C-130 Hercules in the 1950s, they consciously emulated the C-47's successful methodology, creating an aircraft that was robust, uncomplicated, and capable of being maintained in operational environments using only fundamental tools. The C-130 thus emerged as the C-47's direct spiritual successor, and it remarkably remains in continuous production some 70 years later, enduring for precisely the same fundamental reasons that ensured the C-47's exceptional longevity. It simply performs its intended function with consistent effectiveness. The enduring saga of the C-47 Skytrain is a testament to its unparalleled longevity and unwavering operational efficiency. Indeed, it simply functions, defying the passage of time and technological advancements. This remarkable aircraft, a true workhorse, continues to captivate the attention of contemporary military logistics officers, who consistently reference the Berlin airlift as the quintessential exemplar for sustained aerial supply operations. The intricate methodologies for coordination, the meticulously crafted maintenance schedules, and the sophisticated air traffic control procedures, all meticulously developed in 1948, primarily utilizing the robust C-47s, established an irrefutable blueprint. This foundational template has since been rigorously applied and refined in every significant airlift campaign that followed, from the challenging terrains of Vietnam to the complex theaters of Iraq and Afghanistan, underscoring the C-47's foundational role in modern aerial logistics. Yet, the C-47's profound influence extends far beyond its formidable military applications and the realm of hardware. It fundamentally reshaped global perceptions concerning air transportation itself. In the era preceding the introduction of the DC-3 and its subsequent military variant, the C-47, air travel was largely perceived as an exotic, often unreliable luxury, accessible only to a privileged few. However, in the aftermath of World War II, a veritable flood of thousands of surplus C-47s permeated the civilian market, swiftly transforming them into the indispensable workhorses of nascent commercial aviation, particularly within developing nations. These versatile aircraft pioneered critical air routes across vast and often unnavigable expanses of Africa, South America, and Asia, forging vital connections between remote communities and regions that were otherwise devoid of established roads or railway networks. The C-47 definitively demonstrated that aviation could be not only rugged and resilient, but also remarkably affordable and inherently dependable, thereby dismantling the notion that it was merely a frivolous indulgence for the affluent. This pivotal psychological shift held immense significance, instigating governments and businesses worldwide to commit substantial investments in the burgeoning aviation infrastructure, a strategic foresight that ultimately paved the way for the revolutionary jet age and the intricate web of global connectivity we experience today. In a very tangible and profound sense, the C-47 stands as the venerable progenitor of the iconic Boeing 737 and Airbus A320 aircraft that seamlessly link the diverse corners of our planet in the contemporary era. Stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. There is an undeniable poetic quality to the remarkable metamorphosis of an aircraft initially conceived to transport discerning passengers in opulent luxury, complete with sleeping berths, into the formidable machine that played a pivotal role in securing victory during wartime and subsequently instrumental in rebuilding the fragile peace. The visionary engineers at Douglas, back in 1935, could scarcely have envisioned that their elegant sleeper transport would one day be tasked with deploying paratroopers into the heart of France, delivering crucial supplies to resilient guerrillas in the dense jungles of Burma, or sustaining a beleaguered, blockaded city with vital provisions, only to remain actively flying a remarkable 90 years later. Their singular objective was simply to construct the finest aircraft they could, leveraging the most advanced technology available at that precise moment. As history vividly illustrates, the philosophy of good enough done right frequently triumphs over the pursuit of the cutting edge, proving its enduring value time and again. The C-47 did not emerge victorious in the global conflict due to its superior speed or its groundbreaking technological sophistication. Instead, its triumph stemmed from its unwavering ability to consistently appear, execute its assigned duties with steadfast resolve, absorb considerable damage, and unfailingly return for subsequent missions, a relentless cycle of dedication, day after day, mission after mission, year after year. This, then, encapsulates its profound and enduring legacy, not merely as an exceptional airplane, but as a deeply ingrained philosophy of engineering. This ethos champions the intrinsic value of reliability over fleeting brilliance, embraces simplicity as a virtue superior to needless complexity, and prioritizes proven capability above the allure of untested innovation. The venerable C-47 Skytrain imparted an invaluable lesson to the world, that occasionally, the most effective and indispensable tool is precisely the one that steadfastly refuses to succumb to failure. This profound insight, a testament to robust design and unwavering performance, continues to resonate powerfully, echoing through the very structure and operational principles of every modern cargo plane that graces our skies today.